Welcome to Stoic Core 365. I'm thrilled you're here, as today's discussion could shift how you view yourself and how others perceive you. Here's the truth. Truly intelligent men hold a secret. It's not about knowing every answer or the capital of every nation. Their true strength lies in knowing when to stay silent. Sometimes what you don't say speaks louder about you than any witty quote ever could. I've spent years observing people through the lens of ancient Stoic wisdom and over countless coffees, watching human nature play out in real time. Let me tell you, the wisest men I've known share a trait. They don't squander words, don't haste to fill quiet moments, and never utter phrases that erode their credibility. Today, we're exploring 7 things intelligent men never say, not because they're perfect, but because they've learned, often painfully, that these words lead nowhere fruitful. Stay with us, hit subscribe, and let's grow wiser together. Sign 1. I already know that. This phrase slips out more than we'd care to admit. I already know that. It seems harmless, even bold, but it betrays something less admirable, a closed mind. An intelligent man knows better. He understands that claiming there's nothing left to learn shuts the door on growth. I learned this the hard way years ago, working with a mentor who carried the calm assurance of someone seasoned by life's battles. We were reviewing a familiar process I'd done countless times. As he started explaining, I interrupted without thinking, "Yeah, I know that already." He gave me a heavy, serene look and continued. Later that night, I realized my mistake. I didn't just cut him off. I robbed myself of his perspective, shaped by experiences I hadn't yet lived. His wisdom wasn't in manuals or training videos. When we say, "I already know that," we're really saying, "I've nothing more to learn." That's not intelligence. It's arrogance cloaked as competence. Stoic philosophy slices through this facade. Marcus Aurelius warned clearly, "You can learn when you believe you know everything." Our ego, our urge to appear knowledgeable, to guard our crafted image, becomes the barrier to growth. It tricks us into thinking we're on firm ground when we're teetering on pride. Intelligent men see knowledge as a river, ever flowing, ever changing. Step into the same spot twice, and the water's different each time. I once saw a veteran carpenter listen patiently as an apprentice has explained a technique he'd likely perfected decades ago. He nodded, asked questions, even thanked him. Later, I asked why he didn't just say who knew it all. He smiled. Sometimes you learn more by hearing how another sees it. That's wisdom, a quiet intelligence that doesn't need to proclaim itself. So, if you catch yourself thinking, "I've heard this before," pause, listen anyway. Not to indulge someone, but because you might catch a new detail, a fresh angle, a nuance that deepens your insight. Even if you don't, you practice humility, show respect, and over time, become someone worth hearing. In Stoicism, this is self-mastery, setting aside pride for clarity, choosing to remain a lifelong student. That's the intelligence that endures above all else. Scene 2. That's impossible. Years ago, I worked with a man named Robert, sharp, seasoned, the kind of leader who seemed to bear the company's weight on his shoulders, without flinching. Yet, he had a habit, almost a reflex of saying, "That's impossible," whenever new ideas arose. Be it a proposal to enter a new market, streamline an outdated system, or approach a tough client, he'd dismiss it with these 2 words. At first it felt practical, even prudent. Who has time for chasing dreams? But over time, it became clear. When he said, "That's impossible," he wasn't describing the situation. He was revealing his own limits, his own fears. The Stoics understood this mindset well. Seneca wrote, "We suffer more in imagination than in reality." And that's what Robert was doing, projecting fear of failure onto every challenge. Fear of the unknown, of being wrong, of falling short. It's a subtle fear, masquerading as logic, caution, or practicality. But it keeps us small, convincing us not to step forward if the full path isn't clear. Stoic philosophy cuts through this paralysis, teaching that the obstacle isn't the issue. It's our perception of it that defeats us. I saw this firsthand in a later project, long after Robert. The budget was tight, the timeline brutal, the team green. Every instinct screamed it couldn't be done. But instead of saying, "That's impossible," I asked, "What can I control now? What's the next small step?" That project became one of my greatest successes, not because we worked miracles, but because we refused to be frozen by the challenge's scale. We focused on one step, then another. Marcus Aurelius said, "You have power over your mind, not external events." That was the difference. When a man says, "That's impossible," he admits defeat before the battle starts. Intelligent men know what seems impossible is often just unfamiliar. It's not a wall, it's a call to move forward. They see strength not in winning every fight, but in showing up, especially when odds seem stacked. That's stoic courage, not blind optimism, but disciplined persistence. Life demands tough tasks, and labeling them impossible shuts the door on ourselves. But the man who takes the next step, however small, opens paths others don't even see. That's wisdom, forged in effort, not just intelligence. Sign 3. That's not my fault. One of the most harmful phrases a man can utter is, "That's not my fault." It seems simple, even justified when things go awry at work, in relationships, or in life. It's natural to want to deflect blame, to show the fault lies elsewhere. But here's the truth. Every time we push responsibility away, we surrender our power along with it. Intelligent men grasp this deeply. They know responsibility isn't about blame, but about influence. Refusing to own even a small part of the problem means giving up the chance to shape the solution. I witnessed this years ago with a friend, Michael, who lost a major client. He was quick to explain why it wasn't his fault. The client was tough. The market was shifting. His team missed deadlines, all partly true. But while he focused on dodging blame, he missed the chance to learn and grow. He stayed stuck, repeating errors, convinced the problem was always someone else's to fix. By rejecting responsibility, he forfeited control over his own growth. The Stoics taught us to focus on what's within our power and let go of the rest. Epictetus said, "It's not what happens to you, but how you react that matters." That's the key. Saying, "That's not my fault," hands the power to change the situation to others. We wait for them to fix it, to make amends, to improve. But when we claim even a small piece of responsibility, we shift from passive to active, from powerless to empowered. In my own life, I've found that owning my part, however minor, unlocks new paths. It might be admitting I miscommunicated or could have prepared better, even if others erred more. That willingness shifts something inside, building trust with myself and those around me. It shows I'm a man who doesn't wait for rescue or vindication. I act. Blame is easy. Responsibility is tough. but it's where strength resides. The Stoics remind us we're here not to dodge hardship, but to rise above it. Rising starts with asking, what can I do differently next time? That's how intelligent men lead, not by pointing fingers, but by forging a path forward. If these insights resonate, drop a yes in the comments. Your thoughts matter, and I'd love to hear them. Sign 4. I don't need any help. One of the most perilous lies a man can tell himself is, I don't need any help. It sounds noble, strong, independent, qualities we're taught to admire, especially in a culture that glorifies the lone wolf, the self-made man forging his path, carrying burdens silently. But beneath lies a harsher truth. Refusing help isn't strength. It's pride, quiet, corrosive, and blinding. It isolates us, convincing us that silent struggle is virtuous, when it slowly erodes the resilience we think we're guarding. Abraham Lincoln's story during the Civil War's darkest days illustrates this. Often depicted as a solitary, stoic figure bearing a fractured nation's weight, Lincoln actually leaned heavily on others. He surrounded himself with advisors who challenged him, sought conflicting opinions, not from lack of confidence, but from knowing wisdom isn't born in isolation. He visited General McClellan at Antietam, despite their clashes, seeking strategic insight, and spent hours with his team of rivals cabinet, valuing their opposing views. This wasn't weakness. It was strength, tempered by humility. The Stoics were clear on this. Marcus Aurelius, the world's most powerful emperor, wrote openly in Meditations about his debt to mentors, teachers, and friends, listing lessons they taught him. If the mightiest man acknowledged needing others, why shouldn't we? Yet many do, believing asking for help admits defeat or signals failure. That's a trap, locking us in our own minds, drowning in burdens we weren't meant to bear alone. Worse, it denies others the chance to contribute, severing the mutual support that binds us. I've fallen into this myself. Once, I thought strength meant handling everything, work, family, endless pressures, alone, keeping it together by keeping it to myself. It only wore me down. The turning point came when I confided in someone I trusted, admitting I couldn't do it solo. I found not judgment, but support, understanding. That small act of humility brought clarity and energy I'd lost. True strength isn't standing alone. It's knowing when to reach out or accept a hand. The Stoics teach we're part of a greater whole, built for cooperation. Epictetus reminds us no man is an island. Pretending otherwise defies life's natural order. Strength isn't diminished by seeking help. It's defined by it. Asking requires courage, honesty, hallmarks of a wise, intelligent man who knows carrying burdens alone isn't noble. It's unnecessary. Next time you feel the urge to say, I've got this, I don't need anyone, pause. Is it strength or pride speaking? Lincoln led with wisdom and humility, knowing even the strongest need others to stand tall. Sign 5. I'm too old for that. One of the most crippling lies a man can tell himself is, I'm too old for that. It slips out quietly, often cloaked as practicality or self-deprecating humor. But beneath lies a heavier truth, a surrender, a belief that life's best chapters are done, with little left to chase. It's a mindset that shuts doors long before they must close. Intelligent men know this phrase isn't just limiting, it's toxic, eroding purpose and signaling a quiet retreat from the life still waiting to be lived. Consider Harry Bernstein, who at 93, after a career as a magazine editor and raising a family, decided to write his first book, The Invisible Wall, a memoir of his childhood in a divided English mill town. Rejected by publishers, he persisted, publishing at 96. The book earned global acclaim, was translated into multiple languages, and he wrote 3 more after. Harry didn't buy into "I'm too old." He had something to create, to say, and acted. His courage, not just his success, stands out. The bravery to believe life still held more, even in his 90s. The Stoics taught that age doesn't bind the soul. Marcus Aurelius reflected that death is certain, but until it arrives, our duty is to live fully, virtuously. Wisdom grows with age, not from years passing, but from staying curious and bold. I've seen men in their 60s learn new skills, launch businesses, mentor youth. Others, weighed by regret, retreat. The difference isn't circumstance, it's mindset. Saying, "I'm too old for that," closes doors, but asking, "What can I do now?" flings them open. Age doesn't disqualify boldness, it equips it with experience, clarity, resilience. These aren't signs of being done. They're tools for new beginnings. The Stoic path is to keep striving, learning until the final moment. As long as we breathe, there's work to do. If this resonates, like the video and subscribe. Each new perspective I uncover, I want you to hear first. Sign 6. I'll do it later. Few phrases are as seductive yet destructive as "I'll do it later." It sounds harmless, even sensible. A promise to ourselves we'll tackle it eventually. But truth be told, later becomes the graveyard where our best intentions quietly rest. Wise men know this, often learning the hard way, that delaying what matters doesn't grant time. It steals it. Every time we say we'll call tomorrow, apologize next week, or start that project when life calms down, we're gambling with something we can't control. Time? I once knew Thomas, a successful man by all measures, thriving business, loving family, respected in his community. But he was always swamped. He told himself he'd spend more time with his aging father later, when work slowed. He postponed their fishing trip, delayed calls to catch up, pushed off visits to just talk. Then suddenly, later, vanished. His father passed away. Thomas was left with unsent messages and unspoken words. He shared this with me years later, not for pity, but as a caution. We assume we have time, until we don't. The Stoics were starkly clear on this. Marcus Aurelius reminded himself daily of mortality, not to brood, but to sharpen urgency. He wrote, "You could leave life now. Let that guide what you do, say, think." It's a mindset intelligent men embrace, knowing time doesn't wait for readiness or perfect plans. Wise men act now, making the call they've delayed, taking the first step to mend a rift, starting the project gathering dust. Not because it's easy, but because waiting for the right moment is a risky bet that rarely pays off. I've felt this myself. I postponed conversations, avoiding discomfort, thinking time was plentiful. But when I stopped waiting and acted, something shifted, weight lifted, regret gave way to clarity. Action, not intention, builds a life worth living. The Stoics urge us to live fully now. Later is an illusion that soothes until it's too late. The man who acts today, refusing to leave what matters undone, lives without regret. That's true wisdom, because opportunity doesn't linger. It fades while we wait for a better time. Sign 7. That's just how I am. One of the most stifling beliefs a man can cling to is captured in, "That's just how I am." It sounds final, like a period closing a sentence, but it signals a quiet surrender, a choice to halt growth. Intelligent men shun this mindset, knowing a truth many overlook. We aren't fixed beings, bound by old habits or past selves. Who we are is shaped by what we repeatedly choose. Declaring oneself unchangeable isn't defining nature. It's dodging responsibility for it. I've seen this too often. A man loses his temper and, when challenged, shrugs. That's just how I am. Another avoids deep connection, uneasy with vulnerability, claiming, that's who I've always been. These aren't truths. They're excuses, letting fear and inertia pose as self-awareness. Beneath lies resistance to discomfort, to the hard work of change, to the fact that no man is done becoming who he's meant to be. The Stoics tackled this directly, teaching we're not captives of temperament, past, or impulses. Epictetus said, "It's not things that disturb us, but our judgments about them. Our limits aren't our nature. They're stories we tell ourselves." Change is tough, demanding self-scrutiny and letting go of the familiar even when it's painful. But the Stoics saw self-mastery as the highest pursuit, not for ease, but for meaning. Growth requires honesty, asking tough questions. Am I this way because it's truly me, or because changing is harder? Intelligent men choose the tougher path, seeing wisdom as a daily practice of becoming better, not from self-loathing, but from self-respect, refusing to stay static. Saying, "That's just how I am," shuts the door on possibility. The Stoics remind us life is change, nature is change. Resisting it denies our essence. The man who embraces change sees himself as unfinished yet willing. And in that lies true wisdom. If you've ever said one of these 7 phrases, "You're not alone. I've been there too," more than I'd admit. But here's the good news. Intelligent men aren't those who never err. They're the ones who see mistakes and choose better. That's what we're doing here, improving one deliberate choice at a time. So, which phrase struck you today? Maybe it's time to abandon, "That's just how I am," or retire, "I'll do it later," before later becomes never. This is your call to act. Wisdom isn't perfection. It's staying curious, humble, and moving forward. If this sparked something, share it with a friend on this path. Haven't subscribed yet? Join us for the next video.